Hello and welcome to the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy Nutrition Industry Interview. I'm Elyse Wagner, co-founder and chief wellness officer for the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. If you're wondering what additional impact you can make as someone who works in the nutrition industry, or what program would be best for you to continue your learning and how to decide, or maybe you're just curious how you can incorporate coaching into your current profession, you're in the right place. In this video, you'll be hearing from a panel of 3 functional medicine certified coaching academy graduates who have a nutrition background and are currently working in the industry and or in health coaching. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have Jennifer Pickett, who lives in Texas and is a trained dietitian turned functional wellness coach. She graduated from FMCA in August of 2020. And as a successful health coach, Jennifer serves women across the country as she realizes that the last thing a woman needs is another unrealistic diet plan. The name of her business is Inspire Healthy Harmony. Jennifer believes that to make the shift from knowing what to do to the actual doing, you must start with the mind by acknowledging what is driving the unwanted behavior. Then become intentional with your actions and, of course, learn to practice self-compassion. Specifically, she helps spiraling moms overcome their overwhelm through focused functional wellness coaching for the whole body, mind, and soul, so they can transform their health and live a deeply fulfilled life on their terms with freedom and harmony. Jennifer recognizes the importance of compassionate and intentional health practices so one can feel good, because when you feel well, you make better decisions for your health and for your life. She works with clients ready to take control of their complete health, address the obstacles standing in their way, and live a life of freedom and harmony. Fran Morris lives in New York and is a May 2021 FMCA graduate. She has her Master's of Science in Nutrition and is a certified nutrition specialist, along with a 200-hour yoga and mindfulness teacher certification. She's launching her wellness coaching practice, Pure and Mindful LLC, combining her passion, skills, and knowledge to empower individuals to trust their inherent wisdom as they set out to reach their wellness goals. Her practice is client-centered and collaborative, where she serves as a guide and source of support and inspiration. Fran takes a whole person approach, where she explores many aspects of one's life: nutrition, movement, sleep, personal, professional development, physical environment, relationships, family and friends, spirituality, and mind-body connection. She emphasizes the importance of balance to facilitate transformation. She's a strong advocate of utilizing positive psychology strategies with a focus on individuals' strengths and values to help reach sustainable health goals. Fran's reward is seeing others thrive both physically and emotionally. It's the power within all of us, not others, that provides a roadmap for well-being. Deb Sobel lives in the Chicago area and is a June 2017 graduate of FMCA. She is board certified by the National Board for Credentialing Health and Wellness Coaching, has a Master's of Science in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine from University of Western States, is a licensed dietitian nutritionist, and a certified nutrition specialist. In the fall of 2021, Deb will begin the Doctor of Clinical Nutrition program at University of Western States. Deb offers nutrition and wellness counseling to clients virtually at encouraging healthy habits based on the belief that nutrition should be personalized, non-judgmental, and collaborative. Deb helps her clients become healthier at their own pace. So let's dig in a little bit. Thank you all for being here. And I'd love to start with Fran. And can you talk to us a little bit about what brought you into the nutrition industry in the first place, and then what made you pivot or flow into coaching?
Oh, happy to share that. As far as what brought me into the nutrition industry, I was one of those very sickly young young persons who often struggled with a lot of ongoing health issues, specifically chronic asthma. I had allergy-induced asthma, so I was often at the doctor and getting shots. And then I had this wonderful doctor who was way ahead of his time, who said, do you want to stop doing this? And I said, yeah. So he changed my diet. And this was, I mean, we're talking many years ago, changed my diet, took me off of dairy. Gluten really wasn't a thing yet, but dairy. And he had me start exercising, and it was transformative. It changed my life. So I always knew that there was a story to share, and that I wanted to help people who were also suffering with chronic illness. So it was a path of mine. It just happened. I jumped into something else for a while, and then I went and got my master's. And interestingly enough, the master's program that I was in was very grounded in functional medicine. So that was sort of my first real dive into functional medicine. And after I did I had a residency program in order to get my certified nutrition specialist certification. I did a residency program with a naturopathic doctor, and it was just a very interesting experience for me because I was, as the intern, responsible to work on food plans, and I just kept on going to other aspects, asking people, what else is going on in your life? You know, how's work? How's this? And I was kind of already doing this functional medicine thing. And although I loved the idea of the food plans and all of that, there was very little compliance. And I was like, I'm missing something here. What am I missing? I'm missing something. And then I just started doing some research, and I came across several different programs. And in fact, interesting fact is that I actually was registered for a different program, but it didn't feel completely comfortable. I had already had that sort of pull to the Institute of Functional Medicine because of my training. And I just felt like I got to do this. This is the right thing. And it was the best decision I made. It was not only just incredibly transformative for me, I know that I now have the tools to transform the lives of many, many people, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you had this personal experience earlier in your life, and you've always kind of been led from within to, figure out what's really going on, what's the real answer, and seeking that out. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Jennifer, how about you? Would you mind sharing?
I think it started when I was a very young girl. I remember I think I indicated to my parents I wanted to be a nurse. Now, this is back when nurses would wear white uniforms. And so I had like a little white uniform with my name badge, and I would race around the backyard, just imagining all the people that I was helping. And so fast forward, when I was in college and trying to decide my major, I knew I wanted to go into the healthcare field because I knew I wanted to help others, and thought about nursing, thought about physical therapy, even thought about psychology and counseling, and then ended up finding out about the nutrition and dietetics program at University of Montevallo, and just heard it was an excellent program. So kind of started interviewing, some folks and asking questions and meeting with advisors. And that's what I landed on. And I thought it was such a practical way of helping people. We eat every single day. And I also thought in the back of my mind, okay, one day I'm going to be married, I'm going to have kids, and man, this is a great way of helping me and helping my family as well. So it just seemed like a very, very practical extension of me helping others. So now I am a coach and absolutely love what I do. Having been a little disgruntled with the healthcare system and how that system is failing people, I knew I wanted to help others. Again, that same passion carried through. And I wanted to figure out, okay, how can people get results? How can I truly motivate change? Clearly, this is not just about a diet. It is not just about foods to eat, foods to avoid. Wouldn't it be great if it were that easy? If it were that easy, anybody could figure it out. But how do you truly bring about change in somebody? So I had already started a practice and was coaching others, but my desire was I want to level up. How can I be the absolute best coach? I was already very, very interested in functional medicine, followed a lot of functional medicine doctors, was using some of that approach, but had no training in functional medicine. So after digging around on the Institute for Functional Medicine website, I then found out about FMCA and kind of started interviewing FMCA and asking those questions and looking into the program. And every time I had a conversation with someone at FMCA, I was more and more excited. Now, I considered a couple other programs as well, but each and every time I thought, this is it. Like, this is how you can really bring about change in somebody. This is not just about a diet. This is truly how you can drive some change in someone and change their life. So it was for those reasons that I, chose FMCA and could not have been more thrilled with the program.
Thank you. And I love that beautiful picture that you kind of illustrated for us about just from a young girl, you really wanted to help people, and yeah, that's wonderful. And you followed that intuition and that instinct. Thank you, Jennifer. Deb, how about you?
In my case, I went the opposite direction. I started with FMCA and then decided to pursue the nutrition path. And what really got me started with FMCA was my own health journey. I had chronic sinus and allergy issues. I was told I needed a second sinus surgery. And in reading on my own, found the link to food sensitivities and then started reading everything I could get my hands on, designed my own elimination diet, and didn't need surgery. So I thought nobody else should have to go through this. What else can I learn? And I found the Institute for Functional Medicine, but at the time, because I was not a practitioner, I wasn't qualified for that program. So being on their mailing list ultimately led me to their partner in collaboration, FMCA. So from that point, I did go back and I did look at, I think as all of us, other programs. And it really was that collaboration with the Institute for Functional Medicine that for me was the deciding factor. I get the question all the time, did you go on to get a master's in nutrition because you couldn't help enough people with what you learned at FMCA? Absolutely not. There are so many people that need help, but FMCA helped me identify my character strengths, and that love of learning just was completely ignited by FMCA's program. I just wanted more.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Deb. And talking a little bit about that, and you're all graduates. Some are newer graduates, some have been graduates with us for quite some time. Can you talk a little bit? I'm going to start with you, Deb, about your certification and licensures. That how are you actually melding and really weaving in all your different backgrounds and your passions together to serve? Can you give some specific examples of perhaps when you put your nutrition hat on versus when you put your coach hat on? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you. I think with respect to licensing, I'm licensed in Illinois. So as a licensed dietitian nutritionist. So when I am working in other states where I'm not able to practice nutrition, then I'm working as a coach. But overall, I would say for me, everything's integrated, very, very, very integrated. That's what makes me different. For nutrition, I work on a collaborative basis. I take a very, very thorough history, even more so than what we learned at FMCA, having now added additional resources from UWS. And I then take that information with the client's partnership and try to see what it is that's important to them, because I may see something in their intake paperwork, but that's not the most important thing that they want changed. And I think it's just so important that we respect our clients' journey and where they want to go. And so all of the goals are collaboratively decided and built. And then I'm constantly checking back in. Okay, so we talked about this goal to drink more water this week or to add more protein. Is this, how are we going to do this? How are we going to measure it? And is this something that you feel is still doable? And then if the answer is yes, then we go ahead and then we check back in again and, well, how did it work? And all of my clients know it's okay to come back and say, well, that didn't work, and or I didn't do it. And then that just gives us extra information and we can talk about why it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Deb, for
Sure.
sharing that. Jennifer, how about you?
It's so very interesting because I feel like my training as a dietitian was very much disease state focused. So I was trained to be great at disease state management. And that experience of all of these years helped me tremendously. I understand disease, I understand what to do with disease. But if we look at disease state management in modern healthcare, we're looking at management that focuses on pharmaceutical interventions and maybe throw a strict diet in there. And what I'm finding in my practice is that in a majority of my practice is women, is that they don't know how to eat. They have been on diets their whole life. They have yo-yoed with their weight up and down, up and down. They're not taking care of themselves. And so for me as a health coach, for me just to give them another diet, like that wouldn't matter. That is not what they need. What they need is someone to first focus on those lifestyle changes, the things that they can do very simply right off the bat. We can't go from 0 to 60, but we can start implementing some very, what I call small and sticky changes. So little, it almost seems insignificant, and sticky meaning it's really easy to stick with. So we work on those small and sticky changes. We start looking at sleep and stress right off the bat, because I firmly believe when you feel better, you're going to make better choices. So yes, I think there's a role for all of the therapeutic diets, but for us to rush there, it just doesn't work. So I would say most days it is just solely my health coach hat. And I'm just trying to teach them how to eat, and even making those small changes like avoiding the sodas, focusing on real foods, those little things that they know. They know that they need someone to empower them so we can make the shift from knowing to doing. And so most days I have that coach hat on. We're talking positive psychology. We're using their strengths. I want them to feel empowered and encouraged. It is a partnership. I'm just a guide. I'm just trying to ask those open-ended questions. I would say for a lot of my folks, I think I've fallen into this role. I feel like I'm an introduction to functional medicine because a lot of people have heard a little bit about it. It seems very appealing. They don't know much. So I'm able to introduce them to the world of functional medicine and let them know how very different it is, in that we're seeking to get to the heart of the issue, to the root problem. And we're looking at lifestyle. We're looking at the body as a system that works together. So I would say vast majority of days, yes, I draw on my experience and that nutrition education, which was a lot of disease state management, but most days I'm really focused on all of that training that I received from FMCA, because that is the training where you can really empower somebody to get results.
Beautifully said. It sounds to me like the FMCA training is a great foundation for these practical daily tools, these stepping stones that your clients need to take on a daily basis to really see the change. And I love that you said about the knowing versus doing. And I also believe very much so that more awareness, better awareness, right, brings better choices and better habits, etc. So thank you for sharing that. Francine, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you. Well, I will start by saying I feel that I was very fortunate in that my master's in human nutrition, as I mentioned before, was very grounded in functional medicine. So I was already, playing around with that functional medicine hat, and it just resonated with me so strongly. And then I went through this nutrition residency program, and it was so hard to see, because I like Jennifer and Deb, I just so very passionate about helping people. And it was really hard to really care so much and find that people weren't really getting the results that they wanted, that they deserved, I would say. And I just was like, what am I missing here? And I was missing the health coaching. I was missing the positive psychology. I was missing understanding the stages of change where people were. And I said, in order for me to really be able to help people, I have to get to the bottom of this. And that's when Functional Medicine Coaching Academy was the big aha for me. I'm like, this is where I'm going to be able to really, really, really help people. And yes, I do have this nutrition background, and I will certainly be using it in my practice. There's no question. And I feel like, us who do have that nutrition background, that we do have, advantage in that we have this, information that we can share. However, I truly believe that no matter how much time you spend on a therapeutic plan for somebody, if they're not ready to make those changes, it's not going to happen. So the training really taught me to, and it, by the way, it was not easy in the beginning, because as a nutritionist, you're sort of dictating what people do. And that didn't feel very good to me. And we weren't getting the results, right, with clients, with patients. So it is, just being able to meet people where they're at and empowering them and giving them the courage to dig deep and really tap into that power within them. And they know the roadmap for wellness for themselves, right? And Functional Medicine Coaching Academy really, really helped me to understand that and really switch off from that expert approach to more of the client-centered collaborative approach. And I think I'm really, because of that, I'm very much set up to help a lot of people down the road.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to actually just dig a little bit deeper into that question, because it's a question we often receive. And that question is more of, you had mentioned this, and I think everyone has kind of mentioned this a little bit, but the traditional way, or a typical dietitian, nutritionist, etc., they are geared more in that expert approach. And so can you talk a little bit more about that? Francine, we'll start with you, and then we can move down the line. And, what was that like for you to make that lean or that shift into more of the coach approach, which is taking a little bit more of a back seat, while you're also you're taking a back seat, but you've got the back of your clients for sure, and you're empowering them. So can you talk a little bit about what that shift was? Because I know that that's a real thing that our prospective students want to know about, current nutritionists, dietitians, et cetera. Everyone kind of goes through that as they're shifting from how they're coming into the program to becoming that coach.
Yeah. It was a struggle. It was an absolute struggle for me in the beginning, because I just kept on going there. But I have to say that one of the things that truly helped me move from that expert approach to the coach approach is getting to know myself better. And that was one of the most beautiful things. There's so many beautiful things about this program. But one of the most beautiful, powerful things for me was the amount of self-growth and transformation that happened during this program for me. And I loved how the program is sort of set up in that's kind of where you're going when you first start this program, and which makes complete sense, right? Because if we ourselves are not in a good place, how are we ever going to help others, right? So once I got comfortable with who I was as a person and where I was in my life, then I was able to sort of break down that expert approach and really tap into the fact that my ultimate goal, like many of us, is just to help people. And how am I going to be able to do that if I'm really dictating? And I would say that the tools, the personal tools that I was the recipient of during this program really, really helped me make that shift.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and for your honesty and transparency that it can be a struggle. But it sounds like you've got those tools now. Jennifer, would you like to share a little bit or add on to that?
Yes, very similar to Francine. I'd struggled at the beginning with that expert approach. I think that's very deeply ingrained. You're the expert. You're the expert. And sometimes I just get a little bit passionate. I'm like, well, I want to share with them what I know. And you start to really understand it's not about how much you know. It's not about you. It's about them. They have to know that you care. They have to know that you want to bring about change in their life. So it's not about you as the expert. And so As I really started to flesh out and learn about the expert approach versus the coach approach at the very beginning of the program, I think my excitement grew even more because I realized this is it. This is the secret. This is how people get results in their life. We have extinguished the expert approach is not working. People get the expert approach every single day. It does nothing. They go home feeling guilty. They go home feeling discouraged, and they go home feeling ashamed. That doesn't help. So guess what? They never take further action because they just had someone use the expert approach. That coach approach, they walk away feeling empowered, feeling like, hey, I can do this. And I have an advocate. I have a guide. I have somebody in my corner. That is how we want people to feel. So this is the approach that truly gets the best results in people. That's why functional medicine is where it's at. That's why it's the wave of the future. And I think as more and more people learn about it, the doors are just going to be wide open because people are desperate, literally desperate for help. They're desperate for someone who's caring and compassionate and someone who has a listening ear. You can't listen if you're talking too much. So you have to shut your mouth as the expert, ask those reflective questions, those open-ended questions, and then listen and show compassion. And that's how people get the best results.
I couldn't agree more. So thank you for sharing that. And it takes practice. It takes some practice and
It does.
building up those muscles or those, that strength of quieting down and allowing the other person to really step in and take ownership and responsibility. So thank you. Deb, what would you like to add to that?
I would say that based on all of the wonderful things that Fran and Jennifer said about this program, that's really the reason for me that I never shifted from that coach approach. I'd certainly encountered plenty of expert approach in my lifetime before FMCA, and that coach approach really resonated with me. And even though I've gone ahead and now I can give an expert opinion, it's very, I really think hard about when I do that and why and how to still make it collaborative, because like everybody has already said, it's so important that we involve the clients if we're going to really accomplish effective change.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that perspective as well. And I'm going to stay with you, Deb, for this question. So as you have this training as nutritionist, dietitian, and it's very rich and very intense in nutrition, biochemistry, metabolic pathways. Can you share how the functional nutrition that you've learned and the training that you've received from FMCA is the same, maybe different, complementary? Basically, how does FMCA's training in functional nutrition support as well as expand your practice today?
I would say it's very, very complementary. I would not have had the guts without doing FMCA's program first, because it had been quite some time since I had been in school, to just tackle a master's. I probably would never have thought to go there. So for me, taking this path was really effective. FMCA has a really great broad-based background that dovetailed very nicely into the program I did, which was human nutrition and functional medicine. So a lot of the functional medicine principles I had a very, very strong background in because of FMCA's program. I had a strong nutrition program. Some of those initial courses were a deeper dive, but the basic principles were there, and I'd already bought in. So it was just expanding my knowledge base, and that's really what I was looking for. So I think they fit very, very nicely together. I see a lot of it. I guess it doesn't really matter. I see a lot of nutritionists. I followed a more holistic path rather than registered dietitian, going the certified nutrition specialist route. But I see a lot of people coming out with lots of knowledge, whether they're nurses or nutritionists or even physicians, and what they need is help in figuring out how to communicate that information effectively to their patients and clients. And I think that's where FMCA's training helps.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
sharing that perspective. Jennifer, how about you?
Very similar to what Deb said. I think the foundation is there. And I think FMCA lays a wonderful foundation, very much in line with the functional medicine premise that food is information, food is fuel, food is medicine, and food is connection. And so I think the foundation is very, very important. And it's looking at that big picture instead of just disease state, diet oriented, because that strategy is not working. And so what I find in my practice is just teaching people how to eat, how to focus on real foods, and how to add in some color with those real foods, et cetera, so that they have a better relationship with food. We see a lot of dieters, they've been stuck on these diets and they don't have a very positive relationship with food. It becomes a coping mechanism. And so a nutrition foundation is so very important, but it all comes back to the people skills and what's driving the behavior. If someone overeats, if someone's emotional eating, for instance, having another diet does not fix that. Having all the knowledge about digestion, metabolism, absorption, et cetera, does not fix that. What fixes that is really addressing what's driving that behavior. Let's address that. So I think that's what's so important about functional medicine is that it's really looking at the big picture and not nutrition as a standalone. Again, if nutrition was a standalone, this would be pretty simple, but we've got to have the foundation and then build upon that.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Francine, how about you?
Oh, I'm so happy you're asking this question. Mostly because that was a very big concern of mine when I was deciding on which program to go with, because I had had the functional nutrition exposure during my master's, and then during my one-year residency program with a functional medicine practitioner, same thing. And we dug really deep into a lot of these food plans and the IFM toolkit. So I was concerned about the overlap. I really was. And as Deb and Jennifer mentioned, I think that it was very, very much complemented what I had already learned. But what I would say to that, what I would add to that is that I was now looking at these food plans with a very different sort of thought process, because now it's like, all right, that's the nutrition, like Jennifer was saying, you can't separate them out. That's the nutrition piece. Now I got exposure to the positive psychology and character strengths and tapping into people's values. I'm like, then it married the two together. And I was like, such a big aha moment for me, because I'm like, all right, now I had these food plans, I understood them, but now I can bring a whole nother piece to it. And boy, am I going to make difference in people's lives, because I'm not, as I said before, I truly do not subscribe to, throwing out a therapeutic food plan to somebody and dictating. That's just not, I don't think that's where the magic happens. And so yeah, absolutely. I think that it allowed me the opportunity to look at those food plans from a different perspective, from a broader perspective. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, what I love about what each and every one of you are saying, and it's this thread of how can we really make impact and really help transform someone's life, which we know has a ripple effect. My question goes to the three of you, which is, can you give or provide, maybe paint a picture of just one example of how you were really able to bring in the nutrition piece and, blend in the coaching, the psychology, the mind body techniques, whatever it is, to see a transformation unfold before your eyes? And I'll just open that up to whoever would like to share first.
I mean, I guess I'll jump in. Mine is a bit different in that I am not currently practicing, and that has more to do with my own chronic health issues that I'm working through. So I would say that I'm going to use myself as the client here, because I have seen, and as I mentioned earlier, an incredible transformation happen with me by utilizing a lot of the self-care practices. By, changing, I knew some of the dietary stuff, but really, like, we had that opportunity to dive into the elimination diet. It had been many, many years before when I did the last elimination diet. So be able to dive into that and have a community of people who were right there with you, and a support group through it. So I would say I have seen myself transform over this past year. My health is better. I'm thinking clearer. I express much more self-love. I much more grace upon myself. So I would say it was more of a, right now, it will be other people in the future, but right now I just have to say that it was the transformation I saw unfold within myself was pretty incredible and powerful.
Yeah, that's amazing, amazing testament and journey that you're on right now. That will certainly spread to others as well. So thank you for sharing that. Jennifer, Deb?
It makes me think back to many, many years ago when I worked as a dietitian in the hospital setting, and this is in Jackson, Mississippi, and teaching the diabetic diet from the American Diabetic Association. That diet instruction would take me about an hour and 15 minutes, just the diet instruction. That's it, in the hospital room. And I remember I was so young, so green, right out of my internship. And I remember walking out of the rooms, plural, and thinking, they didn't get it. There's no way they got that. That was way too intense. They didn't get it. But I could check off the box and say, I saw this patient, gave them the ADA diet. And fast forward years later, I can use that experience. I can use my understanding of diabetes management, of blood sugar management, and I can apply that, but make it a lot more smart and simple. And so I teach food combining. Hey, let's stick to real foods. Let's get rid of the processed junk. You're going to feel better. By the way, don't just have carbs, please. Like, make sure every meal has protein, fiber, and fat. So I take some of those strategies that were in a very complicated diet that most people were not understanding. I take some of those strategies of diabetes management that I was taught. I apply those today in a much more realistic format and based on the coach approach, based on something that they're going to understand and they're going to feel empowered and they can implement literally at the next meal. So I just think it's all about being smart, being strategic, and keeping this simple so that people can truly implement that change.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it simple, sweetie. That's what I like. Or keep it simple, super simple. I like that. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing, Jennifer. Deb, how about you?
I think, again, it just comes down to working with people has to be individualized, because I've had clients who want to go, 100%. They're in. What do I change? Let's do it. And then I've had people who look at me and say, I had a recent experience with a nutritionist who wanted that last 1% from me. And I just am not going to do that. And so it's taking into account their personality, their character strengths, and their goals. So is their glass of wine their line in the sand? Is that something they're just not willing to give up right now? Are they, I don't know, are they just not willing to consider giving up dairy right now, even though they know they're sensitive? And what else can we do to get started? And it's sometimes a very step-by-step process. And I think that's where marrying the coaching with the nutrition is that I know that if somebody wants to change, that they can do it, even if it's a slow process. And I'm willing to work with that. And that's, I think that's why we're seeing change in people, whether they're a go-getter or whether they're a step-by-step type of a person. I've seen things like blood pressure normalize and blood sugars come down and lipid levels normalize. And it's just to have somebody call me from a dressing room saying, oh my gosh, I tried on pants and I'm a size whatever. I had no idea that was going to happen. Or I just had a doctor's appointment and here's the success in the lab. That just, to me, that makes me feel so good because it's on their terms and it's collaborative and we're working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And just from hearing everyone speak, it sounds like the biggest differentiators for you is that you are collaborative. You're meeting these clients where they're at. You're incorporating their strengths. You're looking at the whole picture, really understanding what are some of the other factors here that are perhaps barriers, and you're working with them alongside them. And each of you have had your own experiences where you can truly empathize and be compassionate with where they're at and help to move them forward. So as we close out today, I'll go around the virtual table here and we'll ask, if you were to impart a piece of wisdom or encouragement to a prospective student, someone who is curious about combining and maybe adding, or this is a whole new field for them, going into functional medicine coaching with or maybe without a background in nutrition or dietetics, what's one or two things that you would share with them? Deb, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Elyse knows I'm a huge proponent of scope of practice and staying in your lane. So I guess think about what you want to do. Think about where you want to go and why, and reach out and talk to, there are tons of us who have experience in both and are happy to talk about it, and know if you're going to go the nutrition route, know the different paths that you can take to get there, and the laws in your state before you start. And really just think about where you want to go, because I've started to help coaches too at this point who want to make sure that they are giving specific, they want to stay in their lane with giving nutritional advice. So knowing that I can come in and either work with them to say they're on the right track or meet with a client and then hand back the coaching piece. So there are so many different possibilities that are out there. And I would say really, really explore them and use people like us as a resource.
Thank you, Deb.
Sure.
How about you?
I would say start now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. I'll do this when I'm healthier. I'll do this when the kids are grown. I'll do this, whatever XYZ looks like for you. Do it right now. You can make a difference. You can have a positive impact on people, and it's important to get started. So I think, everyone will be so pleasantly surprised at how equipped you are in this coaching program, and you can start right after that. So, don't delay. I think sometimes we just put things off, and just know that you can make a difference. You can make a difference as a functional medicine certified health coach without having all the years and experience and nutrition background. You can make a difference. And this is one of the absolute best programs out there. And so it's important to not delay, to start now. My second piece of advice is, if you're about to start the program, go ahead and start thinking right this minute, who do I want to serve? Who can I help? So if you're going to do your own business, like, what is my ideal client? What does that person look like? What do they struggle with? What am I passionate about? What have I struggled with in my own health? Start thinking that way. If you're going to work with a functional medicine doctor, can you gain a partnership with someone even while you're in your training? But start fast forwarding to the end point. Like, where do I want to work? What do I want this to look like? So don't wait until you've completed your training. Again, start that business process and that business thinking now, because that's very important. So you can get started, get going, and get to helping people.
Thank you, Jennifer. Francine, how about you?
Oh, I'm going to say share your gifts. And I say that because anybody who's coming to inquire about a type of program like the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, we are doing it for a reason. We are passionate about helping people live the best possible lives. And in order to do that, we have to share our gifts. So And I have to say that being able to participate in this program has really, and I keep on going back to this, but the transformation that has happened within myself, I have gained the confidence to get out there and share my gifts, because there are people like Jennifer and Deborah saying who want to be helped. And why wait? Why wait? It's time. And by the way, I will also add, what an amazing time to become a health coach, with all that has transpired with COVID and the people who are struggling, being with weight loss, with drinking, with mental health issues. It just goes on. And we are in such a good place to really help these people and just bring them back to where they were, and so that they could have a very fulfilling and joyful life. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And wow, I just have to say so much thanks to Deb, to Jennifer, to Francine, for your wisdom. We absolutely loved hearing from you. And now we would love to hear from you, who's listening. So what is an insight or a takeaway or an aha moment that you learned today from our lovely panelists and graduates? And maybe you're leaving with even more questions, or you're curious, how can I really take this further? What does that look like for you? So either way, if you want to be a part of this growing movement and community, there is a place for you at the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. We really encourage you to reach out, and you can head over to functionalmedicincoaching.org/about/contact. And that's where you can call or you can email us. And we're here to support you. You've got a whole community, worldwide network of support wherever you're at, and figuring out what your next step might be. So please get in touch. And once again, thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you again to our panelists. We appreciate you and all that you do.